A special grand jury investigating whether then President Donald Trump illegally tried to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election in Georgia have wrapped up its work. The investigation is one of several that could result in criminal charges against the former president as he asked voters to return him to the White House in 2024. Well, over about 6 months, the grand jurors have considered evidence and heard testimony from dozens of witnesses, including high-profile Trump associates and top state officials. And for more on this story, Arise U.S. correspondent Eric Ham joins me now from Washington. Eric, thank you so much. And of course, let's talk about the weather. There's dire warning, especially looking at the New York governor, Katie Hochul. Things are going to get worse. Those are her words. What's the latest, Eric?
Well, yeah, things have been pretty bad for at least the last 96 hours, particularly in Western New York, where the latest fatality rate is now at 27. In fact, what we're now beginning to see in Western New York is that the plows are actually beginning to remove some of the snow. We're beginning to actually see some of the roads there. But still, this is an area that is climbing out both of the deep freeze as well as the snow. In fact, I spoke to one reporter up in upstate New York who told me about a woman whose significant other suffered a heart attack, and first responders were not able to get to the individual, and he unfortunately passed away. But because of the snow, because of the storm, his dead body had to remain in the house with her for 2 days. So these are the type of harrowing stories that we are hearing about. In fact, there was one young lady, a 22-year-old woman, who was actually driving home from work from Walmart and was stuck in the snow and was unable to get out. And unfortunately, she died in her vehicle from hypothermia because she was unable to get out of her vehicle, and she was stranded in the snow. And this is what we're seeing all across the area. And while, again, people are beginning to come out of it, we're still hearing from the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, who is still reminding people and imploring those who live in the Buffalo area to remain in place, that even though the snow has stopped falling and the temperatures are beginning to rise a little bit, there's still much more work to be done to actually get people back to normal in that region. Now, across the country, we're beginning to see things turn back to normal, although there's torrential rains that are expected later in the week on the West Coast, ranging from Seattle, Washington, all the way down to Southern California. They're expecting torrential rains that could pose some flooding. And we have seen major flight delays and cancellations, that being because one major airline, Southwest Airlines, has canceled nearly 70% of their flights. So just to give you an example of what's taking place, 2,900 flights were canceled yesterday. Of that total 2,900 flights that were canceled yesterday, 2,600 of those flights canceled belongs to Southwest Airlines. So we're still seeing some trouble, but that is particularly because of one airline. But this has been a very, very dire situation that has played out across the country over the last few days.
All right. Well, over 50 lives lost so far. We just hope that the weather gets better soon. But now let's turn to the former president, Donald Trump. Eric, bring us up to speed with the special grand jury in Georgia.
Yeah, in fact, let's just break this down, because we do know that there are so many legal ramifications facing the former president. We know that he's staring down a special prosecutor at the federal level, where Special Prosecutor Jack Smith is now leading the investigation at the federal level that the Department of Justice is looking at right now. But we also know in Georgia, this is a criminal investigation that is being led by the Fulton County District Attorney, Fulton County being one of those large districts that's outside of the Atlanta area. And this stems from when Donald Trump was still president, and he was trying to pressure the Secretary of State to overturn 11,000 votes. Now, of course, we all know about this because of the phone call that the Secretary of State recorded of the president actually pressuring him to overturn those votes. And so this is an investigation that has been going on for 2 years now. The grand jury that has been investigating this case has completed their investigation, and now we're awaiting the report in terms of what the investigation will entail. Will they call for recommendations of a criminal indictment of the former president, or will it not? Those are questions we do not have the answers to, but we do know that there have been a number of people that have been brought into this legal dragnet surrounding former President Donald Trump, including U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, a close and ardent supporter of former President Donald Trump. So we know also that the current governor, who is a sworn enemy of Donald Trump's because of his refusal to overturn the election in Georgia to support Donald Trump, he also was brought in to provide testimony to this grand jury. And so we're waiting to see not only what the report says, but in fact, how some of these high-level Republicans actually testified on behalf of this case. And so we're expected to actually get the results of this in a matter of weeks. So heading into January, it's going to be a potentially explosive moment and time, not only in terms of what's happening in Washington with Republicans taking control of the House of Representatives, but also with these legal cases seeming to come to a head for former President Donald Trump.
Well, Eric, the worst case scenario for Mr. Trump could be very serious and possibly even resulting in criminal charges. But for your in-depth analysis tonight, I say thank you. Eric Hamp there, our correspondent in Washington, D.C.